Well, playing against Mercyhurst, playing 2 9-inning games, and to see it come down to a conclusion like this in the second game, there has to be a really rewarding feeling to see your team battle through it and knock off maybe your biggest adversary, at least on the west side. What's the feeling like when you finally close out this second game?
Well, I'm going to probably use a lot of cliche terms here right now, like
I worked with Marc, so I heard them all day long.
Belief, trust, just resiliency, all that stuff. I mean, we're 32-4 for a reason, and that's not because we played great baseball every single game to get to this point. We had to find different ways to win all the time, and because of that, it just created such a trust within everybody from the team. I mean, you had just guys doing jobs, and some of our bigger players, Pellis and Orndorff, they struggled at the plate a little bit today, and that's when other guys step up. Vinny Ralso, gets thrown in a game. Jack has a big hit. Isaiah, Owen, all these other guys. So it's just the definition of a team. John McCullough is typically a starter, and we asked him to come in and do something different and relieve today, and he did a great job of that. So, you could look at the scoreboard and say this game was won in the 9th inning, but I think it was just all that trust built up throughout those 8 innings before that somebody was going to step up and somebody was going to come through.
And I think more than anyone else, Oberdorf did with that 3-run homer. We talked earlier this week about how, he had struggled a little bit towards the end of the season, thought maybe that performance against Gannon would spark him. Did you see anything different from him over the past week or so?
A little bit. Jack is such a cerebral player. He has such a great knowledge to the game. He sees the game on a really high level for a young guy, and sometimes he might overthink it. And you see that sometimes at the plate where he'll take a pitch and you could tell he wish he would have swung at it. But, again, his knowledge of the game, he knew exactly what he was going to get off of Krause there. He knew he was going to get a slider. He was hunting it, and he capitalized on it. So, and the other thing, too, about Jack is, for as hard as he works and as great of a player as he is, he's dedicated to the game. So that doesn't mean he's going to get a hit every time, but as long as he stays consistent, the game is eventually going to reward him, and it did here today.
When you play 9 innings, I'm sure it's a lot different strategy in terms of how you use your pitching. And I think it sort of played out pretty similar today between the first game and the second game. You get about 4 innings from your starter. Then you hopefully close it out with Brian, which you did both times. In between, you have someone sort of go long relief. And in the first game, it was Reisman. And then, obviously, we mentioned McCullough in the second game. How do you approach that? Is that sort of the plan, to have that reliever go 3-4 innings ballpark?
It is. And you hit it. That was the key in these 9-inning games, is to have good long relief if you don't get a really long start, meaning a 6 or 7 inning start. And that was the absolute, I think, the key to winning 2 games here today for us was Reisman and McCullough. When you send your typical starters out, Vicini and Voppel, you're going to get 4 or 5. But we didn't want to go to a guy like Nash Bryant or Caden Wood and have them finish the game. That's just, they're not built up for that. So thankfully, over the last couple of weeks, we've been able to increase Reisman's pitch count. He did a phenomenal job today. And McCullough, as a starter, had built his pitch count through the whole season, and it was just a perfect role for him today.
I know that you have to focus on the game at hand, and you have to win every one that you're currently playing in, but it seems like you guys are now really set up well for later in this week, only using, by my count, 5 different pitchers today.
Yeah, and even if we had to, say play tomorrow and we throw, we didn't use Caden Wood, we didn't use Marshall McGraw. It's a good thing. We didn't use Aiden Layton. But even if we did, we're going to have to get those guys back ready for next weekend as well, such as Ben Vicini. So we got to rest a couple of arms, I guess. But even if we use them, they'd have to be ready for next weekend.
You don't know who you're playing yet because it hasn't been decided. There was just 1 game played today. There was 10 innings, a lightning delay, so they'll play tomorrow. What do you do between now and Friday?
Well, finals. Our guys, God bless them, they've been working really hard to prepare for this weekend while balancing the last week of classes. We need to kind of actually pull back a little bit and let these guys go spend some time preparing for their final exam. So I think practice will be pretty light the next probably 2 to 3 days, just some short, small group work. But as a coaching staff, our eyes will be glued to what's going on over in the East. and we'll start to put together a plan and a scouting report for whoever comes out of that other side.
Pellis made a nice catch along the line in game one. Orndorff made 3 or 4 terrific catches. Ejo made a really nice one as well. It seems like your outfield defense, more times than not, made the plays today. How important is that?
Man, you're hitting all the highlights. It's easy to look at Jack's home run and say that won the game, but game-changing defense in the outfield, especially from Derek. And that gets overlooked, right, because it just shows up as an F8 in the scorebook, and it was much more than just an F8. So, man, those were rally killers, I think, taking away extra base hits, and it allowed us to keep putting zeros up on the board. So, yeah, the defense that we played today was spectacular and was as big a factor in the win as just the last home run.
I know you and coaches all across the board don't want to leave anything to chance, but your resume probably speaks pretty well, win or lose in the championship. That being said, how important is it to win the 3rd PSAC title?
Well, I've been thinking about this, and the last 2 PSAC tournaments that were completed, we won them both.
Yep. And you never were eliminated in 2019.
We were not, and that's no disrespect to Bloomsburg. You know, they were crowned the champion a couple of years ago. But it has been since 2016 that we've been eliminated from the PSAC tournament, and we'd like to keep that streak going and make sure we're not eliminated next weekend.
Coach, thank you so much for doing this. Congratulations. Enjoy a few days off, and then we'll see you back here next week.
Thank you on behalf, again, of all of our alumni, which most of them were here today, but for the very few who did make it out to the ballpark, I speak for them and thanking you guys for bringing an incredible day of baseball to all of our fans and followers out there. So thank you.
Awesome. Good stuff.